Screen. Let me see. I gotta see where I can see my chats. Let's see. I think the chats just pop up. If you pop in, come say hi in chat. I'm gonna go ahead and blast this out to a couple socials. I will be right back. But yeah, we're gonna talk about Trump and NATO. We're also going to be talking about Iran and the United States in the West. Maybe if some people have questions, we can sort of talk about the geopolitics together. But yeah, let me go ahead and I'm going to blast this link out. So if you stop by and say hi, yeah, say hi in chat or whatever. That's Shiny Silver Beard. Oh, okay. We're back. So sorry, I think my stream got paused, but yeah. Go ahead and say hi in chat. You know, like I mentioned, like I was mentioning, we're going to be talking about Iran and you know, the United States a little bit. Maybe we can talk about theory. And I just got back from a run, so if you're logging in for politics, we also have my 2-pound hand weights. Hey, what's going on? What's up? What's up? Good to see you, dude. Yeah, we got my hand weights and my wrist weights and all this stuff. And so I want to be able to talk a little bit about the media and stuff as well. Hey, what's up, Caesar? Good to see you, bro. Heck yeah, it looks like we got the West and the rest represented in the chat. The West and the rest. And so that's what, you know, one of the first stories I wanted to cover was Tulsi Gabbard. I don't know if you guys saw DNI Tulsi Gabbard. So if you're not based in the US, she's really focused on domestic national security. And so when Tulsi Gabbard talks, unless she's being sort of tricky or deceptive, if she's being a liar, what Gabbard is normally doing is sort of saying like, look, I only care about one thing, and that's the safety of the United States. That's the safety of the United States. And so, you know, Fox News did a big coverage of her talking on talking about the leaked intelligence report about destruction to the Iranian facilities. And yeah, you know, and so, you know, I think some people would say that like she is voicing this, like a very firm, hard opinion that what she's interested in right now is that the U.S. still has a securitized position. And what this would mean, without like all the bluster, is that like any military, especially the United States, pursues the national security and national interest of the country. They're competitive. Hey, Peter, good to see you, bro. And so when we see Gabbard coming out and saying, no, you know, this is actually way worse than they thought, you know, maybe this is saying that, yeah, the U.S. is comfortable competing for that sort of position. Oh, what's up? What's up, Kat? That like, who knows? The United States is comfortable sort of competing for that position where, you know, Iran has to almost have this underground nuclear program. And especially something important to know about Iran, like one simple fact is that Iran has for the last like 40, 50 years been very secluded from the global economy. They've gotten really bad deals on oil, and a lot of like their institution building has been like very focused. And so like this is like one of the things like the U.S. would talk about, like the U.S. Postal Service budget. Who knows? And Americans like are naturally thinking like, well, geez, if I'm paying this much for the Postal Service, or if it's efficient, isn't it also the case? It should also be the case that I'm thinking about how much Google is spending in Japan or in Germany or in Brazil. These are all places Google and Amazon do business. And we have military bases all over. And so talking about the US Postal Service budget it's not totally separate from, you know, all these other crazy ideas that I have as, you know, as an American looking at, you know, the world is my oyster, where I've got all these responsibilities, tons of responsibilities as well. Yeah. And so when we think of like seclusion in political theory or isolationist regimes, whether this is because competition and you have these people making decisions because they're looking out and you have all these sharp edges pushing in on you, they're all pushing in on you. The other side, oh, Joe likes my look. I just got back from a 5-mile run. So yeah, I'm a little haggard. I also always have the beard. But I'm glad you're enjoying it. Yeah, but this was just the one thing I wanted to say about that is, when you take politics in a very globalized, hegemonic place like the United States, everything is this really grandiose global context. We don't actually think in the United States that our decisions are going to change what you get at the bodega, right? Circle K doesn't change. It's always the same thing. It's always the same thing. So when you go to a place like Iran or whatever, it's inappropriate to say that Iran's like a homeless place because they have 90 million people. They have 90 million people, so they have sophistication. But that sophistication is often about a different type of narrative. You have different people with influence that naturally come together to sort of support, it's like, yeah, together we can do this. We can do this together. And so, yeah, you end up getting some corruption that you have to solve and all this other stuff. And so the United States, if you want to get like really crazy LSD brain from this, the United States looks at all this stuff in the West and says, well, who are your friends when you're going out to do this? You got to be honest. Yeah, your buddy duck. If your buddy duck is one thing, I'm an honest guy. Have I ever not been honest with you? You tell me something different, duck's gonna fix it for you. I'm a fixer. I'm a fixer. If I look at Iran, if I look at Iraq, if I look at the United States, your buddy duck fixes things, baby. What do you think it is? What do you think it is? Yeah, and so this is what geopolitical competition is. This is what geopolitical competition is like. Is that, yeah, when people who are opposed to the United States say that, well, look, if you're going to be a strong state like you say you are, you should have decisions that change life for people, right? Isn't that true? If you're not making life harder on yourself because you're exporting democracy so much, if you're not being effective, if you're not the good guy, then it's not really clear what your strategic platform is. So yeah, and so my own personal, like my personal belief when I'm watching like Piers Morgan did an hour special today. He had all kinds of footage of Donald Trump interviews. He was out there talking to geopolitics experts and Washington experts. So again, getting into sort of the people who are navigating the strategic playing field. Americans understand war sort of as this blanket statement. We understood Iraq and Afghanistan because we had almost 3 full years of rhetoric and of grandstanding. And really not talking about actually, like, no one talked about Iraq, no one talked about Afghanistan, no one really talked about freaking Saddam Hussein. Also is a crazy story. Saddam and his brother Uday both came up in the military, and it just so happened in the Middle East that you have politics and stuff there. Hey, go ahead and smash that like button too. Go ahead and smash that like button if you guys want. I got a really interesting one. This is going to be a non sequitur. So thanks everyone for watching, because I don't always go live like this. But here's a crazy grown up way to look at it, and I want you to be able to sort of like see this and turn it different directions. And also, hopefully you have a new way to look at stuff. Right? I collect these, by the way. I collect these. This isn't a memorabilia stream, but this is Kobe Bryant in a Santa suit. I don't know if that's funny. I collect these. So if you want to understand sort of what society is like in the United States and other places, you can think of this analogy of bones on the ground. I don't know if somebody told me this. I don't know where I picked this one up, but isn't this okay? So imagine, like, really trippy. If you go to Mars, imagine you're a coyote, okay? I am from the Southwest United States in Arizona. Arizona, USA, brother. Yeehaw! And so we're talking bones on the ground in the United States here. Bones on the ground. So I want you to picture this. If I lean to my left, lean to my right, you can see I got all kinds of furniture. This is all dead stuff from the earth that I done picked up at the Lazy Boy store. Yeehaw! Woo! I done roped me a nice W-2 job and roped up some furniture. Got myself a refrigerator. Laying it on a little thick. A little thick. But bones on the ground is this crazy idea, because if you're in the United States and you see Bernie Sanders talking, you might say that this is like, being in the desert and being a scavenger, and you just come across bones on the ground. You don't expect the United States to become a democratic socialist country, even though the New York mayor, right, that just happened, that New York's probably going to get a democratic socialist mayor. But these bones on the ground things are like the Green New Deal. Same thing with like the Tea Party's crazy lunatic version of, eliminating the Department of Education, all kinds of crazy shit. And so, yeah, when you are, when you're talking about politics and society in the US, we don't think there's such a thing as too many bones on the ground. You can have, even in our two-party system, you can have like 15 different platforms competing for airtime. You can go to 15 different major networks and new media sources like Tim Pool or, like David Pakman or whoever. And all of those, all those ideas that maybe you hear and they go in one ear, out the other, those ideas are all going to be like, at some point, it's like, we don't care. It's like eventually we'll find a better solution. A very American idea that the best idea has to win. And so when you go to like an isolationist sort of regime like Iran, who does participate internationally, they're a nation state, so obviously they're doing things that aren't just Iranian, bro. Like, obviously, you guys need to tell me what they're even doing. But like, it's a very typical mindset in the Middle East that's like, no, we don't need more bones on the ground. We don't need more people stirring up trouble. I don't need these like weird Western industries that I don't understand and Western companies coming in and doing business here. I don't need politicians telling me what my life is like. I already have the bones on the ground that I have. I'm a scavenger a little bit, just like people in the United States. And you go to Siberia, right? Go to Russia, right? And I have a lot of love for the Russian Federation. Obviously, Vladimir Putin is a huge competitor for the United States. He's a guy that deserves respect, even though his government is super oppressive, especially for things like gay rights. Trans rights is like in cyberspace for them. But if you go to someplace like Russia and Siberia, there's no bones on the ground. There's no bones on the ground. You get these very curated opinions, 2-pound hand weights instead of having the 50-pound weights that, your buddy Duck. I got a little bit of muscle. I'm not that big, but in the US, I can deal with AOC, who's part of the Democratic Party, who's opposed to Republicans. I can deal with AOC saying like we need a Green New Deal, even if I don't agree at that time that we need it. But what the West says about Russia is that when it's time, when you have the opportunity for new bones on the ground, this is the crazy part, right? The bones on the ground thing is that like Russians are like, yeah, I can go scavenge, and if we find something useful or necessary, something sort of like scientific or mathematical that we need, And now we're doing that, but it's time to have a conflict, or it's time to somehow reel in our society. We have to reel it in again. And you're wondering how Vladimir Putin is, one of the most powerful presidents on earth, relative to his entire state. Well, the reason is that Russians are like, well, okay, it's time for bones on the ground. We have none. They have many. What do you think I do? What do you think I go do? So like very manly, and not just manly and like gendered, but people would be like, okay, so where have you been for the last 20 years? If you're this peaceful planet, oh, in the glory of the earth, Earth Mother, we all care about peace and veganism. We all care about all this stuff. No, Russia go find bones on the ground. The United States has many bones on the ground. Yee-haw! Yee-haw! We sure do, doggy. We got a lot of bones on the ground. Hit me with it. What's up? I'm going to say what's up to chat. What up? Oh, Reason Riffs. What's up, man? Good to see you, dude. I think I owe Reason a message in Discord. And then El Croco, Funny Bones Gaming, Insanity, eat a pew-pews, bruh. I like the meats. Yeah, I'm a vegan dude, but I'll tell you, I grilled a mean steak back in the day. I used to be a good cook. Let's see. West Bromwich. I don't know even what country that is. That's how ignorant I am. James asks if I would recommend people live in Arizona. In Arizona. Arizona is a crazy place, right? I used to wrestle in high school. And so like a bunch of, every like 2 or 3 years you would hear about like a wrestler died in their car because they're trying to cut weight. In wrestling, you can't, if you go above like 0.1 above a certain weight, or like 0.3 towards the end of the season sometimes, if you go above like a certain weight, you're not allowed to actually do your competition events. And so we'd have people that would like suit up. Like for me, I just got back from a run in 110 degrees. It's not a big deal, but like, I'm so sick, bro. So sick. But yeah, like to me, this is sort of a light shirt. It protects me from the sun. It cools enough, whatever. The world's not perfect. It's what I have on. But yeah, you always hear about like people like having a heat stroke in their car. Really sad, actually. Some like 20-some-year-old girl just died the other day. She went out hiking in Scottsdale, and she didn't come back. And they ended up like, rescue crews went out. They found her later. But like, that's, so it's kind of wild and dangerous out here a little bit. But it's also really beautiful out here. It's really beautiful. Don't look down, I guess. But we're really fast growing. The thing Arizona has as well, and I'll mention this, I'm not going to quiz you guys on this later or anything, but if you're into like the political economy stuff, Arizona's got a couple big data centers. So this is one of the things Arizona has. Is Facebook and Microsoft both run very large servers out here. We also have high-tech manufacturing, because we have, if you can picture it, we've got train lines that run from LA all the way around the country. And who knows? We also have universities and stuff, cheap houses. So you have a lot of we've got a couple EV manufacturers. We've got like a law enforcement company called Taser. The people that make tasers, actually, they're based in Scottsdale. All of this stuff, I don't know, random stuff, but yeah, our old governor, he was like super crazy about people making a ton of money at work.
and he was like, oh, bro, if we bring in all these companies and we drive up home prices, then in 30 years we're gonna have all these homes and all these companies headquartered here, and then they're all gonna leave, and no one can afford to live in Arizona. So we also have like some of the big, like KPMG's one of those global big consulting firms for accounting. We have Intel and Honeywell, so aerospace and chip conducting. So Arizona is a very rich place in a lot of ways politically. I know I look kind of crazy. Like Arizona is such a rich place. We did it, guys. We did it. I'll pick the hay out of my head, and we together we can do it. Together we can do it. We're stronger together. You are strong. Tempeh. Tempeh's good, man. Tempeh's good with sauce. I ate a ton of tofu back in the day, but like it ended up getting a little, not too protein dense, but too much work to like dry it and stuff. But tempeh and any of those soy products are awesome if you want to try a vegan or vegetarian dish. I recommend it because you have to just cook the dish somewhat well. It's not rocket science, but toilet flushly. What is it like being American? What is it like? Yes. What did you expect me to say to this? Being an American, I can talk a lot about vegan food. That's the main thing. Some people say it's a defect. Some people say it's a defect. But yeah, in the United States, we have a lot of foodies. It's weird because if you go on like LinkedIn or one of those websites, maybe it's like this everywhere, but you can follow big, small CEOs. So, I mean, that's a very prototypical, I think, American thing I would show people, is that like you can talk to a CEO who's a total asshole, pardon my French, who literally doesn't know anything. Or you can talk to a CEO who maybe you think he or she or they, maybe they sound like they're an asshole. Maybe you don't like the way that they talk. Maybe they're not talking about something you totally understand, but they're doing a good job is like the main point, right? They're doing a good job. And so like, everything is like that, right? Because you can meet small business owners that know a ton, that, the only reason they're not doing a large business is life just happened that way. Some of the YouTube guys like Alex Ramosi, he's a really smart guy. You might not like Alex Ramosi, but his style of doing business where he's very aggressive in terms of going out and building marketing channels, very big on education, very big on making sure he's not pushing products that he doesn't like. And so when he does find a product that he likes, like everybody sells it. Everybody at the company is going to have some role in that sales and service delivery marketing function. And yeah, in the United States, generally people are in a good mood and stuff, but not always. Welcome to 2025, baby. If you guys want to see my bubby, this is my bubby. Welcome to 2025, baby doll. I know you didn't think that it was going to be this way. I know you didn't think that life was always going to be easy or always be this hard. I just want you to remember that there's a lot of people that care about you and a lot of people that love you. And all your emotions, all of your hard work, what do you think is going to hold it down for you, sweetheart? What do you think it's going to be? What do you think it's going to be, sweetheart? It's always going to be America, baby. It's the Big Apple. It's Los Angeles. It's Hollywood, baby. It's all showtime. That's all it is. You find the smallest things that are actually making people successful. If you're not optimistic, you're not going to look around and see any of it. You can look at your insecurities. You can look at your strengths. You can look at both those things, and life is always going to be hard. Life is always going to take hard work. But you always got a friend too. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And what's up, Miss? Oh, that's Toilet Flushly. Oh, Scott McIntyre. What's up? How are you doing? Gren, he or she or they. Yes. Yeah. So this is another one. If we get back, I see trans rights in the chat. Let's go. Let's go. I don't care. Yeah. So I want to talk again to everyone about Trump in this Iran situation. And getting back to the news stories, this is my criticism. This is a criticism of Donald Trump. Is that one of the things Donald Trump did that people can criticize him for? And yeah, I'm going to lay it on a little thick here. So I apologize to folks that might be a little further right than me or further left, and they don't like hearing softer criticisms. Hey, what's up, Heather? How are you doing? People, you have to hear this. You have to be able to hear this. And if you can't, then it's like, okay, cool, bye, whatever. I'd love for you to stay in the political dialogue, but if you don't want to, then this part's not for you. And so here's an important point. Donald Trump formed his presidential politics. A large part of that happened when he was running for his first term. So what does this mean? This meant that Donald Trump took an idea, like a very big idea, a consequential one, that Barack Obama's the birther movement or whatever it was. He could go on any news outlet. He could go to any single social media platform and post about Barack Obama not being from the United States, and the American people would believe this. Now, is Donald Trump a mean guy? Is he a bad person? I don't think strategically you're allowed to say that. You're not allowed to say that at all. But here's an important point. Here's an important point. Is that if the other thing is POTUS, President of the United States, whichever one you want to do. If you have Donald Trump, who's now deciding how Americans go to war, he's telling parents and people this. And he also believes that you can have these sort of like large swatches of influencers and stuff going out and putting out his message. And this is how you get popular political consent. This is how you get majoritarian buy-in. This is how you keep populism alive. It's not necessarily true that this is also how you make a decision in the first place. It's not how you make a decision at all. So I know a lot of like the old timers like Jake Tapper and Don Lemon, Megyn Kelly. Those are three people that maybe part of their story was looking at mainstream media and looking at new media and saying, no, I'm sick of it all. I'm sick of doing this because what all of you are going to be doing, if you're always combating each other, or if you're not giving investigative journalists a chance, if you're not giving like the editorializing sort of component the right fair shot, if everything is so constrained that you can't have these conversations, then you're giving you're giving these people in Washington power to stand up, and they're always this hard edge. They're always this really hard edge that you have to play off of, which is one of those tough things. What's up, everyone? Thanks for joining. Yeah, and so this is like a criticism of, this is like a meta criticism. So maybe it's like the wrong day for it or whatever. But if we do take, if me as a Republican or Democrat or just someone who, like, if I was a political strategist or something, I'm playing a role a little bit, and I'm saying, well, look, how are we going to rally together? How are we also going to stand up and either oppose policies we disagree with or support them when the time comes? Like however people justify stuff. If I'm playing like I'm this corner edge or something like this, where I'm on social media, I'm the audience for Steve Bannon, not even our president, I'm the audience, and I'm just supposed to wiggle where I'm sitting. You know, I got to stand up and applaud people that say, well, look, we cannot be this sort of this country that makes bad decisions that impact other people in a negative manner. We can't be that way. And so when we're talking about decisions in that regard, just the decision-making process, you know, we have to have an ability to play our role as like a citizen, as a receiver of information, as someone who doesn't know enough about like our national platform and all this other stuff. And we also have to be able to find a way to let that fit into the political mechanisms that already exist. What up, Who? How are you doing? I don't know. If you have a topic you want me to cover, we're doing politics, Trump, NATO. Kyle Knapp, what's up? And so, yeah, I just wanted to that's an important topic to me, is that, you know, it's not as complicated as you ever make anything. It's never going to be that hard. It's never going to be that hard. Never. Oh, Lord, I know. It's never going to be that difficult. It's like, if a man deals with his friends, what's he doing when he's dealing with trouble? He's dealing with his friends. He's going to hop in a car, drive somewhere, dealing with trouble, dealing with the friend, still dealing with the friend. That's what that is. Yeah, NATO. I'm going to do a little NATO talk too. Just for those of you who are maybe in the know, maybe not in the know, NATO is this organization that it's a security organization, the North American Treaty Organization, and so it's really a way to coordinate and organize international security resources, military resources for shared goals. And so when Trump's at NATO in the United States, because someone asked what it's like to be an American, here's another American thing. If you're super involved in you know, American identity or something, is that NATO's this organization that shares some of the same. It's you know, it's all the United States. NATO shares some national security priorities and objectives with other countries, including the United States, and it doesn't represent the US platform. It doesn't represent the things that the US is comfortable with long term. It doesn't represent how the United States should be conducting diplomacy based on US interest and based on what we believe our competitive, you know, our competitive interest is in the long term. Yeah. And so yeah, and so when Donald Trump's going to NATO in a time like this, it's really difficult. You know, I think a lot of people would have noticed that the press questions were all about what seemed like this very abrupt, and very risky Iranian strike, as well as what appears to be a forced and non-consolidated peace deal. And so most people would say, well, this is reckless politics, and it's not clear how this isn't abandoning the actual U.S. national interest. This would be like, you know, a journalist, this would be one of those questions that they would ask. Is that like, yeah, you know, yeah, Donald Trump's friends with guys like Pete Hegseth. You know, Pam Bondi's going to have a bigger role in the coming years and stuff like this. And so how am I sure that Donald Trump's not just this like gangster who said, well, yeah, I'm just going to put my friends in charge. My friends are the ones who are in charge. You know, and then a lot of people have to ask, like, where did realism go? Where did realism go? What about neorealism? You know, are we able to talk about like internationally significant corporations? Like, do we have time in the next 3 years or 5 years to talk about sort of the details of how the US is actually able to get on, and what that looks like from everybody's perspective. You know, it's a difficult thing, a very difficult thing. And if you want to talk about people being mean and having mean opinions, mean perspectives, if you want to talk about people doing one-sided politics, you don't have to go any further than Truth Social. What up, babe? Truth Social is the place that people go to say mean things because that's all they can actually produce. No offense. If you're going to be mean, don't do politics. Go do something else. I don't care. Go play volleyball. Go play volleyball. Learn violin. Learn a cello. You can learn anything you want to learn. You think I didn't learn instruments? You think I don't know music? It's trying to loop it all together. It's all one big cohesive story. No, let's go back to bones on the ground, though. This is bones on the ground again. And so when we, if you're just joining, I was talking about, how, like, there's almost this analogy of being a scavenger, and you find like dried leaves and sticks and bones on the ground, like if you're a desert coyote. And this is how, like in the United States, in a place like Arizona, in a place of Arizona, you never have enough bones on the ground. In other places, you're willing to go out and do the bones on the ground thing. In the United States, you can be coaxed and convinced why you go do that. That's good enough. But with NATO, and we think of these types of organizations, these roll up to things like democratic peace theory, where, if democracies are trying to prove that democracies don't go to war with each other, and humans like that, I think somebody's asking about this in chat. So let's just say that I'm from the United States, and it doesn't matter where, because I am from the United States. I'm here in the United States, and my sort of like macro perspective is that, well, yeah, in a democracy, we vote to go to war. And by and large, we vote politicians and have these very transparent mechanisms to establish laws. And so if I'm happy, if I have a, happy wife, happy life, if I'm happy at home, I should imagine that other people can be happy at home as well. And I'm never clear why, if I have to go out and exert force, I have to do so in a way that is a full-blown war. That doesn't make any sense to me. Doesn't make any sense to me. It's very sunny, optimistic, maybe game theoretical, maybe. I don't know. Could be. Yeah. And so one of the ways that I personally contextualize history and events, as well as sort of the large thematic shifts that the United States picks up and doesn't pick up, ho, 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 a little bit, like, ho, 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 I am an old-time strongman. I am old-time strongman. I pick up a lot of things for democratic peace. It must be this way. But yeah, NATO is a bones on the ground scavenger for this democratic peace theory in some ways. If you're able to sort of enforce favorable economic conditions for liberal democracies, and if you are, you're able to pool resources and collectively you must evolve. Yeah, this is the Russian accent version of this. If you are NATO, the thing you must do, you must, very good Russian accent, very good Russian accent, very good Russian accent. The thing you must do is consider how air defense, air, missile, and troop placements all contribute to overall security vision, more or less. We'll also perhaps create small differentiation with EU. No offense, but You know, not this kind of offense, but different kind of offense. Different kind of offense. And yeah, and so this is talking again. If we're talking about something like very mature way to approach a topic like this, and we're asking why, like, why does the U.S. actually have, like, why would you have a general, like a NATO general? That sounds really really stupid. That sounds really stupid to have someone doing something that's not in your country. And the reason that actually isn't because like you have this sort of like, you know, like exponential or like the Powers law or something, like, I don't know, you know, you don't have like LSD mind tripping. It's just a better way to scavenge the types of things and scenarios that you want. It's very picking and choosing. And so this is a strength as well as a criticism of the United States. You know, you're a coyote going through a desert. Do you want to find like one, you know, and apologies to the animal kingdom for this, but do you want to find one pigeon, or do you want to find like 15? Would you rather find one pigeon or one cow that just sat there? Sorry, no offense. That was just sitting there. Bones on the ground, a pile of death. And so some people think that societies don't actually have like that strategic of a long-term operating rhythm in terms of innovating new technologies, finding new equations to be efficient with your energy and economic production. So this is what Trump is actually doing in NATO, I think. This is what Trump should actually be talking about is, well, strategically, do we have such a grave threat right now that we're actually all meeting? Is there a reason that everything got so out of hand that now, you know, it's all hands on deck so we don't have World War III? It's all hands on deck so people still believe in, you know, believe in like the constitutions of our countries. Super doomer stuff for sure. And so, you know, what I would say is that all of these security organizations are all down one or two layers, down into the right, down into the left. And when you try and prioritize them in the United States, the strength and the weakness, the weakness is that all of this is still coming from Donald Trump himself. You know, pop the hips a little bit, pop, 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 you know, and so that's my response. You know, someone said, do this in Russian accent. If I had to respond, Russia critique of NATO, yeah, obviously it's a piece of shit. Yes, NATO is a piece of shit. Who doesn't actually say piece of shit? This guy does not actually say this. But your difference is that America is still institutional. America still have institutional security regime called Department of Defense. That's the Department of the Defense, baby. That's the one we do. That's the one we do. Like and subscribe. It's bad when I am doing a funny accent to then switch to Iraq. Iraq and Afghanistan was horrible. And I'll say this here for everyone, information. A lot of people don't know that for like a decade, maybe longer, in both Iraq and Afghanistan, there were roughly 500,000 people or more with food insecurity. People literally starved to death because of the United States invasion. And so if you want to go beyond Abu Ghraib, if you want to go beyond privacy violations, if you want to go beyond the impact of having this severe trauma, perhaps a regime change, you can look up all of these things, and relative to justice and having that conversation, perhaps a longer conversation about you know, how we navigate conversations about justice in our societies if anyone is doing that right now. While we also think about the actual implications. Yeah, the U.S., like, because from another perspective, from like a Department of State perspective, the U.S. went into Iraq and was like, what is this piece of shit Ba'athist infrastructure that you guys have? If people are fucking starving, that was probably also your problem. Really painful thing to say. It hurts to say. But yeah, I would agree. Iraq is not a terrorist organization. Iraq is, I would say Iraq, if you were, this is maybe like a hard truth for some people, but it's another way to think more maturely and compassionately and accurately, precisely about stuff, is that like, just consider that US generals watching the Iraq invasion knew that some people were going to want to join insurgent groups, right? That was planned for. And so the strategy going downward was almost like, well, yeah, it's better for the United States and the Iraqi people at this point if we know about the types of people and the type of things they're going to do in militias, in informal, if they're in a non-state group at that time. We know the things that they're going to do, and we know how much credibility we have to give to like formalized leadership structure and those things. So yeah, Iraq is not a bad guy. Iraq's never been a bad guy. Iraq was just Iraq. Yeah. So, yeah. And, I think people will look back, the long term of history tells a story. I think people will look at Palestine in Gaza and also see, a pretty severe story in the long term. I think right now, politically, it's difficult to justify any sort of platform in the media. Like, how do you tell the story to Israelis or Americans when you had and have missiles and attacks coming? I don't know what the fuck they're doing right now. I'd rather be up here talking about nonviolence than promoting these YouTube fucking stupid narratives that don't think common sense, don't think about who's actually making decisions, what are the forces driving, peeking out, going under, wrapping around things, what are the sort of like buttresses on either side. Like, this is the kind of stuff that, people need to think about more concisely when you're thinking about a strategy wrapped in a strategy wrapped in a strategy. And this is getting down all the way to the level of like institutions and political parties and this kind of stuff. I mean, that stuff has to all be the real deal. And so when we're talking about having, being able to have a charismatic leadership moment to end the war in Palestine and Gaza, we're talking about those charismatic leadership moments being set up so that even if you hate Benjamin Netanyahu, you can dislike him as much as you want. But if we can talk about these charismatic leadership moments that are able to contextualize what's actually possible, and it invokes the right sort of message and values, the right semantic meaning for people, that stuff's all really critical. It's all really critical. And we don't need, I don't remember in the United States a Martin Luther King guy. I don't remember a charismatic leader who did a lot and got a lot done and really changed that trajectory based on being cruel and mean. I've never seen that in my life. I've never seen people being deaf or blind or silent. Tell me, what is an excuse to kill a 2-year-old kid in Palestine? What is the excuse? Yeah, they're obviously, like, from a philosophy perspective, I don't think there's ever a justification to have a child dying in war. Yeah. If you're talking about a military doctrine or something, I'm not sure. That doesn't seem like what you're asking. I apologize as well for your loss of your family. Yes. Before history is what's needed with before history is what's needed with this conversation. I'm not sure what that means, if you want to clarify. Oh, thanks, Lucifer. Yeehaw! I love being told I'm handsome. I love a lot of things. I don't love anything more than I love being told I'm handsome. I'm so pretty. I'm going to get lost in this conversation. What country is Palestine? Palestine is not does not have an internationally recognized government right now, except for Hamas. Yeah, so that's a tricky one if you want to look at, like, because it's always useful. So for the non-normies in chat and whatever, it's always useful to like lean on your normie, like actual normie friend. And so some people would look at, obviously it's like an iceberg. You can look at all the context and then develop an opinion or a better opinion, even a non-violent pacifist opinion. You can always develop an opinion about Hamas or Hezbollah or the Houthi government. You can compare and contrast with Syria, or you can just totally break the area studies and, these guys are like us sort of paradigm, and you can just be a nice person, do your research. But, some people could look at Hezbollah and Hamas and argue, well, you're allowed to get elected for sure, but you're not allowed to get elected and then tell people no one else will ever be elected other than you again. And you're not allowed to, in most worlds, you're not allowed to go through and just erase what everyone else had done previously. And this is what happens when I think, and I'm not accusing anyone, I'm like honestly not accusing anyone of anything, bro. So like, you guys, like, give me a little space on this one. Like, okay, but no offense, bro. Like, this is what happens is, if people ask gotcha questions about, instead of asking about justice or to have a dialogue, if people ask gotcha questions, things just get worse for everybody, right? Because what is a gotcha question is, it's like, if this is me walking on a cliff and I fall off, that's what a gotcha question is. You're putting me on a cliff and telling me to find the one right way of answering that question. And for me, just no offense, I'm a worker, right? That's what I do. I work. Trans rights, what's up? Anyone trans? You don't have to obviously blow up trans in the chat, but if I am a worker, right? So I may not have a singular perspective about other nations' politics. So sorry, I can barely afford ramen, but I'm trying to spread my own opinion or whatever, help give people a way to understand, sort of Trump and some of this scary stuff, this exciting theoretical stuff that's happening in the world. And so the one thing that I would say here is that, with asking these gotcha questions is, if you're not a worker, if you're going to ask a gotcha question and you don't actually put in the work, you're not actually going to put in the time for it, don't ask about other people. No offense. Give me some space on this. Let me work a little bit on this, but you have to give your workers the time to go through and actually do that stuff too, because I can't talk about Lebanon or Palestine if I don't totally understand politics, culture, economic flows, like actual money flows and stuff. How would I if I can't give an opinion as a citizen or voter of those countries, how can I give an opinion as some random guy on YouTube? And so it's also hard because, you get, the Piers Morgans of the world, right? No offense to Piers, right? Great guy. But Piers Morgan, if Piers Morgan has a great way of talking. So Piers Morgan will say something like, now you have an elected Hamas government who's taken political prisoners, and they've been rumored to take moderate religious leaders hostage, right? And so, this is a story, obviously, if it happens, it's going to get covered in the US. It's going to be maybe a 15-minute soundbite on a talk show, some editorialized a little bit. But yeah, the place I was going with that was, because I have a motor mouth. The place I was going with that one was that, yeah, if you're not going to even work, like at that level, you know, you're basically saying, going back to my scavenger, you know, bones on the ground analogy, you know, we're finding random dried fruit. We're fruitarians and finding carcasses and nasty stuff. No offense, but you know, those sort of gotcha topics, gotcha questions are just going to leave you without a way to work out of it. You're going to end up with one tiny little thing. Maybe it's really useful, but oh my God, you are not open. Tell my kids to always zoom out. Take your Google Maps and zoom out. Take your Google Maps. Good advice. Trans people have periods too. Leaking granny fluids grinds my gears. I don't know what any of this is saying. I'm sorry. I don't know. Yeah. So being open. Yeah. You know, I don't know if that was for me and Piers Morgan talk. But if we're talking about actually opening a can of worms, a can of whoop ass, a can of information, a can of theory on something, we always have to go a little bit further. I just want to say thanks to everyone for joining. I think I'm going to sort of call it pretty soon. Like I said, I just got back from a run, but if you want to like and subscribe, I'm going to try and do a couple more of these a couple times a week, whatever, doing Trump talk, whatever. Yeah. And, you know, it is, you know, I'd like to talk more next time, you know, if we can cover some of the political basics, being able to talk about things like ecological justice, you know, when we talk about things like human rights, when we talk about things like creating a benevolent or fair situation for, you know, first responders, veterans, people in the military, like, isn't that relevant to our national political platform? Yeah. Shouldn't it also be relevant about risk and justice? Yeah, it definitely should be. Shouldn't we be able to move between like a topic like Iraq and NATO or something? Yeah, sure. Why not? If everyone's going to be nice, cool. I'm going to try and be nice. But yeah, I think at this point, I'm going to exit out the stream. Thank you so much. And yeah, everyone have a great day. Take care.